Hey, hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Today, I am interviewing the wonderful and brilliant Jess Glazer. Jess is a former celebrity personal trainer and elementary school teacher, just turned her once cute side hustle into a multi-million-dollar business in 2 years. Since leaving her teaching job in 2017, she's hired a team of incredible heart-centered leaders. We talked about how she built her school with pencils of promise, how she is creating a charitable contribution into her business and teaching her students how to do the same, and also avoiding burnout and being a highly driven entrepreneur and what that looks like. I love Jess. After the interview, I was like, we need to connect and chat more. So you're going to enjoy this interview. Let's jump to it. Hey, Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rachel, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so let's jump in. Just tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Absolutely. So I am a business coach and I am the CEO and founder of the Digital Business Evolution, which is a brand that has many different products and programs under it, helping entrepreneurs, wantrepreneurs, and solopreneurs really get their businesses started up off the ground and even scale into multiple seven figures.
I love it. How did you get started with that?
Oh my gosh. A complete accident, really, truly. I went to college for my doctorate of physical therapy. I dropped out in grad school after I had went through, kinesiology and everything like that. I ended up working in the fashion industry for a little while. I was an elementary school phys ed and health teacher for 8 years and a celebrity personal trainer for 18 years. So nothing in my background screamed business coach or, founder of a company at all. But what ended up happening was in 2017, I decided to leave my teaching job to kind of go all in on these different side hustles that I had. I like to call them cute side hustles because that's all they really were. And what happened was those cute side hustles quickly started to scale into, at the time, multiple six figures. And so I had a lot of trainers asking me how, because I was a trainer. And so a lot of my friends in New York who were trainers started asking me, could I help them? And it just sort of snowballed and accidentally turned into a business, which scaled up to multiple seven figures. And here we are today. Yeah.
Amazing. I love it. So you'd say it'd be like an overnight success. What do you think becoming an overnight success actually looks like?
Oh gosh, 10 plus years of work. I get that a lot from people because the sexy story is this overnight thing. But I started my first digital side hustle in 2012. It's 2021. So there's been nothing overnight about it, and many, many different pivots, which for the longest time I thought they were failures. I thought that I was quitting and failing different things, whether it was dropping out of physical therapy or switching out of the fashion industry or then quitting teaching. I just kind of thought they were all different failures. And really what they were stepping stones. And they were teaching me different lessons and skills that I needed to get me exactly where I am today. And this isn't the end. There will be another pivot and many more chapters and iterations in the future. And I now know that everything that I'm doing and learning and trying, it's just for the future. So now my future self is really excited.
I love that. And I love that perspective because I think so, like, we put so much pressure on ourselves. Like, we have to get this right and land this thing, when in reality, entrepreneurship is just one big pivot. And if you can just like embrace that and know, like, you're going to try something now and it might not work tomorrow. If it works now, that's amazing. And then we can try it again and then tweak, pivot, try something else. What do you say would be like one of your biggest lessons that you've learned from all those pivots?
Ooh, I think turning inward has really been just a big lesson over the last, I'll be 37 next week. So over the last 30 plus years, but really turning inward and asking myself better questions, because when I can ask better questions, I can get better answers. And so when it comes to something specific to pivoting, is it shiny object syndrome? Am I comparing myself to other people? Is it hard? Am I just coming up to resistance? So the easy thing to do is pivot, right? Because if you walk away, you don't have to deal with it. So asking myself better questions and reflecting inward of where's this coming from? And maybe I should pause instead of pivot and just kind of reflect back. And every time we make a decision in the business, we go through a pause. So whatever that decision might be, if it's hiring someone or building a new product, it's let's pause and kind of look at it from all different angles. And does this align with our core values as a company and then individually, and really just taking that time. But on the flip side of the coin, I'm all about messy action. So it's a dance between the two.
Totally,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, so you're running a multi-million dollar business from the road, living in an RV full time. What does
Yeah.
that look like?
Oh my gosh. It's crazy. So my husband and I, we were living in Manhattan, New York City for many years, and we left in October of 2020 during the pandemic. And, we really just wanted to be able to get outside a little bit more. And New York is amazing. And God, we're city people, but we are certainly not outdoor campy people. We just wanted the ability to have a little bit more freedom in where we're going and, have more nature. And it was just kind of time for us anyway. So we bought a rig. We bought a 40-foot motorhome. It is by no means camping. It is not roughing it at all. We had never done it before. We never grew up this way, and so it's been an adventure. And there's been a lot of growth individually. There's been a lot of growth for us as a couple. I also retired my husband from his corporate job in the fall, and he came into our company full time. So there's been a lot of movement and transition. But the number one challenge on the road would be definitely Wi-Fi and time zones. Wi-Fi and time zones, because we're kind of bouncing all over. And the coolest thing is just being able to do this and to see places of the country that you would never normally see. We so often just fly kind of from city to city, and you don't see the in between. So it's been just a beautiful journey of a lot of the in between, which has been really
I
cool.
love that. And you just need a computer and then off you go.
Yeah, that's it. Well, and Wi-Fi.
Computer and
Yeah.
Wi-Fi, the
Yeah.
essentials. I know when
The
we live in West
essentials.
Africa right now, and that was like the
Get
biggest thing.
out.
Like, yeah. So like with us making the decision to move to West Africa, I was like, I just need good Wi-Fi. And as long as we have good Wi-Fi, like we'll be fine. And so there's actually
Wow.
excellent Wi-Fi, and I have like backup on my hotspot, and I'm like, we're good. Like this is
Yeah.
awesome.
That is so cool. What time is it there?
3:39. So I think I'm 7 hours ahead of where you are, I think.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is so cool. I didn't know that. We are
Yeah.
patiently waiting to get back to Africa. As soon as we can, we will. I know. I
Where
know.
where in Africa were you?
So we honeymooned in Kenya a couple of years back, but we actually just built a school with Pencils of Promise in Ghana. And so we're just waiting. Our doors opened in January 2021. And so we're like dying to get over there to see it and meet the students and the teachers. And I'm just like, oh, yeah,
Oh, okay. So I lived in Kenya in
get out.
2008. It's like that was my first experience in Africa, and it was like my heart is
Oh,
in Kenya. And this is perfect because building a school, my husband and I actually started a nonprofit, and that's like our thing to build a school. And I know one of your big things is creating a charitable contribution part in your business. So
yeah.
talk to us about that of how do you incorporate a charitable component into your business?
Yeah, so we really take the approach that Tom's has, where it's a one-to-one approach. And so for
Cool.
every single client that comes through any single one of our programs, we donate education for one student for 1 year overseas.
I
And then in
love that.
addition to that, we also just donate on the behalf of wanting to build this school, which I thought would take, I don't know, it was kind of like a crazy stupid goal for 5 to 10 years, and it actually ended up taking us 2 years, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But the key component for us is now being able to maintain it and sustain it. So interestingly enough, we work with Pencils of Promise, and they're an incredible organization. They've been around about 11 years. And one of the things that they saw at the beginning was they were popping schools up left and right, but then there was no actual, they couldn't fund the school. They couldn't pay the teachers. They
Ooh.
didn't have supplies. Building a physical framework is very different than being able to sustain it. And so
Yep.
we're committed to our particular school that we just built. So we're going to continue helping, put teachers through it and making it better and get technology in there. And we have a really cool program for menstrual hygiene. And there's just a lot of really wonderful things that they're doing. WASH program as well for clean water. And so we're committed to that particular school, and of course helping whichever other ones we can,
Yeah.
but we want to make sure that we can sustain that. And then one of the threads throughout all of our programs is a charitable component where, yes, we donate on the behalf of the client that comes in, but we really encourage all of our clients to do the same in their own programming.
Yeah.
And whatever amount it is, it's fine. Whatever charity it is fine. But we really see a ripple effect here. And so we've had hundreds of clients now come through, and they all have charitable components too. And it's so cool. It's so cool.
I love it. So we have the one-to-one model of like
Mhm.
are we you sponsoring education for a child for a certain length of time, or what does that look like
Yep.
specifically?
One child, one school year for every one client that comes in.
Amazing.
Hmm.
Do you have, so is that through Pencils of Promise or another
Yes.
charity?
Yeah, it's all through
Okay.
Pop. Yep.
Okay. And then do you mind me asking how much does it cost to build a school and then sustain it ongoing? So we have just like numbers in our head. Cause I
Yeah,
know like our audience is all about how can we make an impact on the world? And
sure.
so if we have something concrete that we can work towards, it's like, it's like it's doable. We can make it happen.
Absolutely. So this was 50,000 was what we needed to kind of get it off the ground and kind of get it running.
Yeah.
We've at this point raised and donated closer to I believe 120. So now we can kind of start to like fill it with teachers and stuff. But yeah, it was 50K. However, I will tell you, in pencils of promised land, they're not necessarily like popping a school up for every person who raises that much money, because again, we have to make sure that we can sustain those schools.
Yep.
And so pop usually will pick a couple people each year, and they'll build whether it's 2, 3, 5 schools per year, and that's kind of it. And we kind of squeaked in right as COVID was happening. We started the build in July of 2020. So I think they only built 2 last year.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, it was an honor. It was an absolute honor to be chosen. When they called me, I lost it because I was a teacher for 8 years. So
Yeah.
it just means a lot. And yeah, we were super excited about it.
Amazing. How much does it cost
Yeah.
ongoing to be able to support like resources, teachers,
Yeah.
electricity,
Yeah.
whatever it is that they need?
Yeah, that's totally open-ended. So we don't have a hard stop number for that, because it really
Okay.
depends on how many students are coming through that year, how many different programs are they going to be running. So as the school's open for a longer amount of time, they'll have more and more programs, more and more teachers. They're anticipating our school will have about, I think, 540 students, and about 1,000 community members will have jobs, but that's going to be over the course of a couple of years.
Yeah.
So where we're at right now, we're nowhere near, we're nowhere near those numbers. So it's not quite as much. Through POP, it's about $77 for education for one student, just bare minimum education for a student. And then it can be raised there depending again on what type of, like, if they have technology and what does that look like, and all of the different materials they have. Yeah.
Amazing. Like I love this when it comes to making an impact. I'm reading John Maxwell's latest book. I think it's called World Changer. Oh,
Okay.
I wish I knew exactly what it's called. But in the book, it says like the biggest predictor of getting a country out of poverty is high school education. The biggest predictor of someone actually graduating high school is third grade literacy. And out of the entire book, that's like the one sentence that is stuck with me. And I'm like talking to my husband, his name's Alphonse. I'm like, Alphonse, this is how we can change the world. Like we just need to help people in third grade go to like learn how to read, and then they can go to high school and graduate, and then we can help people get out of poverty. So I love what you're doing.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true though, the impact that you can make in a student's life, in a child's life, just by helping them learn how to read it's unbelievable. It really is. I love that. Love it. Love it. Love it. I just feel so aligned.
Totally. So you're helping your students create the same charitable component. What's some of the ripple effect and the impact that you've seen them make by you teaching them this model?
Yeah. So in general, they just bring it into their business models as well. And so the majority of our clients are building courses. We specialize in course creation and membership sites and stuff like that. So most of them are doing a one-to-one component as well, which is really cool. And we've seen everything from, actually, a lot of people have gotten involved with Pencils of Promise because they love it. They see it. But we've had everything from, oh gosh, like eating disorder and mental health to other types of child programs, sex trafficking, literacy programs, diversity, inclusion. Like there's so many different charitable components that people have gotten involved with. People also will do cancer research and races and all sorts of really everything across the board. We've seen really cool things. So it's just neat to see them get excited about it and to bring it into their business.
So is that something that like you talk about on the sales page of like, when you join us, you get this, or how do you make sure your people know the impact that they're making?
Yeah, so we are very mindful not to use it as marketing. I don't feel comfortable with that, and I don't know that that's necessarily allowed. So it's just a kind of a thank you, and we do let people know, and I try to kind of thread it throughout content that I put up and share the stories of what we've done and how many people we've helped. We're in the process right now, as we build out this new company, DBE, we're creating new sales pages, and we'll have like a ticker on the bottom of the one sales page. So it'll say, whether it's the amount of money that we've been able to donate or the amount of students that we've been able to help. We'll have different data ticking, just so that's up as well. I haven't done as good of a job as I could have in the past of letting people know, to be honest. I kind of don't tell them about it until they come in. And now it's something that I'm seeing. The more I talk about it, the more people get involved and they want to do it and they get excited and they want to bring it into their business. And so I'm making that shift now. And so, yeah, we're definitely sharing it more and more.
I love it. Okay. So building a seven-figure business doesn't come without challenges. What are some of the biggest mindset challenges and hurdles you've had to overcome to,
Yeah.
be the CEO of that seven-figure
Mm.
business?
Yeah. Every single thing that every single other person deals with. Like, there's no, it's so funny. I love these types of questions because you're like, of course I've been through stuff. Everything from imposter syndrome and comparing to, limiting beliefs of self-doubt and who am I and why me and all of that, just getting out of my own way. And I think for me, there was a really big jump from being a solopreneur to an entrepreneur where I started hiring team members and, we have W-2 employees. And so that was like a huge jump because I went to college for my doctorate of physical therapy. Like I went to school for kinesiology. I was a phys ed teacher.
Yeah.
I don't know how to run a company. I'm not a CEO. I don't know that stuff. Right. And so these stories come up all the time. And just, you mentioned John Maxwell before. My husband and I were reading How Successful People Lead, one of his leadership books recently. Just after dinner every night, we do 5 pages together. And just stepping into that different level. And they say new levels, new devils. And I think that with every new level, there's been a new mindset thing, right? And at the beginning, maybe it was fear of judgment. What are people going to think? What are all my college and high school friends and family going to think? Who do I think I am, 30 something years old on Instagram, right? And then you get into this other level and get to the next one and you have all these clients, and then there's this pressure to perform or to uphold the standard that you've created. Or, I say it all the time, feedback is neutral, but feedback sometimes stings, and you get client feedback and you're like, oh my gosh, I created this thing and you don't like it, and that really hurts. And learning to not take things personally. And so I think with every level there's been all sorts of stuff, and they creep back in, right? Like the same things come back and you're like, I thought I dealt with this already.
Nope, it's back.
It's back, which is just a beautiful opportunity to continue working through and understand you're not done with it yet, or you're human.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest personal limitation you were running up against to break 7 figures, and how did you get over that?
Asking for help, being able to outsource stuff. Yeah. I mean, do I think you can get to 7 figures alone? Yeah, I did. I was technically alone. I say that in quotes because I always have mentors and books and podcasts, so I'm not alone. But in terms of a team, I really was alone. However, that was not sustainable, and I've dealt with burnout twice before, and it was definitely going to go down that path if I didn't get help. And also, I think it just gets to a level where, in particular with what we're building and where I want to go and the type of company we have, I can't do everything by myself. I'm not an expert at all the different things that I need, nor do I want to become an expert in all of those things. So dropping my ego and saying, I need help is huge, and has been huge.
Totally. Burnout. Talk to us about how you've dealt with burnout, and what are some tools or maybe boundaries or things that you have in place now to prevent burnout from happening.
Yeah. So for the listener who is anything like me, which is probably a lot of people, right? Just super self-motivated and driven and high achievers and type A, recovering perfectionist, all these different things, right?
Yeah.
If you're listening to the podcast, you probably resonate with some of that. Yeah. For me, unfortunately, I had to go through it in order to wake up and see it. I don't know that that's how everyone has to experience it, but I had all of the neon flashing signs and I had all of the warnings multiple times, and I ignored them. And the only way that I was able to actually understand what that meant was to actually hit burnout. And like I said, it happened twice. So I didn't even learn after the first time. But both times were just a lot of different health issues, everything from a lot of back issues and gut issues to a breast cancer scare. And that one left me kind of on my knees. And that was the one. That was the second time. And that was the one where it was like, oh, I did this to myself.
Yep.
And I'm doing it again. And I already learned these lessons, so I thought. And so for me, after going through that, I was able to kind of reflect and say, okay, I need to do a better job. I get to do a better job of practicing boundaries and making sure that I do take care of myself. And I kind of had a moment of what's it all for, right? When you're sitting there uncertain of what's going to happen, it's like, what am I working so hard to build? What's the purpose? What's the point? And not to get dramatic, but that's how it felt. It was like, what am I doing? And for what? Is it the recognition? Is it to make who proud? Right?
Totally.
The awards. I mean, what is happiness and what do I actually need? And I got to redefine success.
Yeah.
And so for me now, I do have warning signs that I can see a little bit more clearly. And usually it's physical for me. So it's a physical ailment. I'm getting sick.
Yeah.
I'm feeling run down. I'm irritable. Maybe starting to snap at my husband for no reason, maybe getting resentful, definitely sugar and like carbs, wanting like craving stuff like that. So those are all things for me where I'm realizing I'm probably putting in a little bit too much. And then I have to just kind of pull back and say, for what? Because at the end of the
Totally.
day, as an entrepreneur, there is always work to do. Like it never ends.
Always.
And so you can always
Always.
create more work.
You could always earn more. You could always help more people. You could
Yeah.
always create
Yeah.
something. And it's
Yeah.
so funny. Like we have such similar stories because you played gymnastics. And so being
Yeah.
like a high performing athlete, I played volleyball. So it's like the driven, like
Mhm.
want to win, want to perform, getting recognition from coaches. I'm
Oh
assuming
yeah.
like, right? Like wanting to win, beat the competition, all of that, to having
Mhm.
an eating disorder because you struggled with bulimia, right? I
Yeah.
had like orthorexia and all of that stuff, and
Yeah.
the being in control and significance and all of
Mhm.
that. So I think I love that question of like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
And like, what is all of this for? To kind of like, when you are that driven, to like pull yourself back a little bit and just kind of reflect, like, if my
Yeah.
family's not happy, or if I'm not present, or if I'm not doing the things that really matter to me, like, what is
Mhm.
it for?
Yeah. Which is a really difficult question to ask yourself because the answer
Yeah,
is usually not it's usually a little ugly. Like you don't actually want to face it. And I
totally.
think, right? Like, so we avoid it and we just keep working instead. So we keep doing so that we don't ever have to be. And it's just much easier
Ex-
to do that. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
much easier to do than to be, for
Oh
sure.
my gosh. Yeah. It's so much easier.
So much
Yeah.
easier.
And the
I
funny
love
thing with
it.
entrepreneurship too is that I just actually lost my train of thought. So sorry. Yeah.
It
I'll come back.
happens. That
Yeah.
happens to me all the time. And I'm like, I was just in the middle of a story and I don't even know where I was going with that.
Yeah.
What's one of the best books you've read?
Ooh. Ooh, that's such a loaded question. I'm a huge reader. I will say one of the ones that I read every year is Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. My husband and I, every
Ooh.
year after New Year's, we read it every year. In terms of the best, ooh, it depends what season I'm in. I just went through a deep spiral for the last 2 years with Joe Dispenza.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like all of the rewiring and NLP type stuff. In terms of business, oh, there's so many. I don't know. Yeah, it just depends
A
on the season
million.
I'm in. Like now I'm in such a like leadership and like company building, but before there was always so much business strategy, marketing, personal development, like there's just so many different categories.
Totally. I love it. What does it mean to you to make an impact?
if something that you do or say catches the attention of just one person and has them question, I think that's an impact. Just has them question, right? Has them learn something, has them see something from a different lens or a different perspective, has them ask themselves a better question, has them want to dive into deeper research on something.
Hmm.
It has them hear something for the first time, because we hear things, but we don't actually hear them, right? Sometimes we hear things 10, 12 times and then you hear it again and you're like, oh, it clicks.
Yep.
I think that's impact. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Where can we connect with you?
Yeah. So I hang out mostly on Instagram. I'm at jess.glazer, Glazer. I have my website, jessglazer.com, digitalbusinessevolution.com. Yeah, those are the places that I am most often.
Awesome. Jess, you are incredible. Thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you so much for pouring into our audience. I really appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you. And if you want to grab any of my favorite books, I actually have them all categorized. I'd love to gift a book list to your
Yes,
audience.
please. Yes, always.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have a beautifully categorized book list of different categories of books, everything from personal development to more spiritual stuff. And it actually comes with a free speed reading training so that you can practice your reading as well. So that's at jessglazer.com/the reading vault. So I will get that to you.
Amazing. Jess, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you.
Awesome, Rachel. Thank you.